everyone, my name is Shauna in case you don't know, and welcome back to another video. In today's video I'm going to be doing the Can't Say I Didn't Try book tag. If I can find the original creator for this tag, they will be linked down in the description below. So there's 11 questions on this tag, let's crack on into this. First of all is number 1, a book you should have DNF'd. For this I'm choosing The Sea is Salt and So Am I. I won this book in a giveaway and I accessed the book via NetGalley, so I felt like I had an obligation to read it because I had an arc of it. However, this book was a book that I really didn't like the message it was telling people. It wasn't like the explicit message that it was telling people, but this book essentially was dealing with suicide and not having productive conversations about it. I'm very conscious of the way that young adult books talk about suicide and mental health issues, okay? And I get very frustrated when I see that it's not sending the best messages about these topics. Like, it's one thing to raise mental health awareness, and it's another thing to accidentally send the wrong message to teens who are suicidal. And The Sea is Salt and So Am I is about this boy who attempts. His attempt is unsuccessful. However, because his attempt is unsuccessful, this girl gets in a relationship with him to make it so that he doesn't attempt again or harm himself. And I feel like that's the wrong message for people, because the only reason these two people were in this romantic relationship with each other was because he attempted, which I'm not a huge fan of the message that like is underlying that whole concept. And the other thing is this girl coming in being like, I can fix you by being in a romantic relationship with you. Like, no, teens have so much crap that they're dealing with. Like, if you're gonna talk about suicide in a book, don't have anything positive come out of an attempt or success. So in this, the relationship started because of the attempt. And also don't tell teens to try and like fix someone who's having these issues by being in a romantic relationship. It's just this underlying message didn't sit right with me, and this is coming from someone who has struggled with these thoughts in the past. So like, I know that this book would have been a bad influence on me and potentially put my life more at risk if I'd read it when I was a teen and I was having these feelings, if you see what I mean. It's a little hard to describe, but basically this book did not talk about mental health topics in a productive way. And also, it was very triggering for me because the kid who attempted had the same name as someone I know who was, I don't want to say successful, but you know. See, it's hard to talk about. I should have DNF'd this book. However, I was like, I have an obligation because I have an arc, and just like, no. Like, it was really bad. I really don't recommend that book unless you're a fan of other mental health depictions that are similar that don't necessarily present the best message about mental health, if you know what I'm saying. I'm sort of being vague about this because there's one book in particular that I would immediately compare this one to that really romanticized suicide. However, I can't even bring myself to say the name of that book because the name of it is too triggering to me. You know? Anyways, enough of the triggering stuff, let's talk about other stuff. Number 2, most books you've read without finishing a series. So I started the Nancy Drew series when I was a kid. I never finished it. I think I read about 9 books in the Nancy Drew series and never finished it. I do have more on my shelf, and I am planning on reading the rest of the ones that are on my shelf, but I'm probably not going to finish the entire series because it's really long. Next up, a hyped author you just can't get along with. John Green. I'm sorry, I really love John Green as a person. I love watching his TikToks, love watching his YouTube videos. I mean, him and his brother literally like helped me through different courses in high school and college. But unfortunately, John Green's writing style is just not for me, and I find his books to be very bland and boring. I've only read 2 though. I own the rest of his books. Maybe I'll try another one this year. I'm not a huge fan of John Green's writing and the storylines that he creates. Number 4, a genre you rarely read from. There's a few that could fall into this, but I'm going to say historical fiction for right now. I am currently actually reading a historical fiction book, but that's very, very rare for me. But I did make it a goal this year to read more historical fiction because I realized I have not been reading very much historical fiction. I just find that a lot of historical fiction is like really slow and dull, and maybe I just need to find like a different like branch of historical fiction. That doesn't sound right. A different like combo with historical fiction. Like, maybe I should try historical fiction romance or historical fiction thriller instead of just doing plain old historical fiction. Maybe I need to find something that I know will probably like increase the pacing. Maybe that'll make it more interesting for me. I don't know. Number 5, the most elusive book. A book or edition you can't get your hands on. So I haven't really tried too hard to get my hands on this edition, but there is only one that's coming to mind, and that's the Scottish edition of The Philosopher's Stone. It's written in English, but it's written in like a different version of English. I don't know if I'm wording that right. If you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. I know some people have accidentally got the Scottish edition and then tried to read it with their kid and like couldn't do it. But like you have the standard text in the Harry Potter books, but imagine like Hagrid trying to read the whole book in his style of speaking. Like that's what I think of when I think of the Scottish edition. So I really want that edition. I don't have it. I probably could find it if I put more effort into looking, but I have not. Number 6, a book or author who keeps getting recommended to you, but you know you won't enjoy. I don't really actually have one for this because I feel like most of the authors that I get recommended, I have a hunch that I'll enjoy them, or I've already read like one of their books, so I know that I'll probably enjoy the other ones. However, one that I see getting recommended a lot just generically to the public that I don't think I'd enjoy is Colleen Hoover. I know that her books get recommended a lot, but I'm just feeling like I wouldn't like her books. I mean, I know she has some like thriller horrors, which I don't think I'd really enjoy because I don't really like that genre, and I know a lot of her books are like romance, specifically like very steamy romance, which I'm very picky about which steamy romances I like, and I just don't think that I'd like her books. Number 7, a book which has a better cover in a different language. I actually don't really pay attention to different covers in different languages besides Harry Potter, so I'm doing Harry Potter as my answer. I am a huge fan of the French editions of Harry Potter. I have 2 of them and they're just so pretty. Like, it's completely different. It just has a random castle, but it's also pretty. And obviously covering the author's name because she's a TERF. And then we have Chamber of Secrets. And the thing is, it's like random pictures that aren't necessarily specific to the Harry Potter series, but something about this design is so pretty. And I also love the size of the book because it's like so small and dainty and it has a good flop to it. And I'm just a huge fan of these French editions. If I ever go back to France again, which I don't know if I will, I have mixed feelings about France, but if I ever go to France again, I would definitely pick up the rest of the series because it's so pretty and they're so like tiny and I love them so much. Number 8, a book you've only seen the movie / TV adaptation of. There is quite a few I could choose for this one. I am not the type of person who feels like I have to read the book before I watch the movie. And so I oftentimes watch the movie or TV show before I read the book. And one of those where I watched the movie but haven't got around to reading the book yet is The Fifth Wave by Rick Yancey. I really enjoyed the movie. I saw it when it was in theaters, and then I believe I saw it a few times at home because I own it on DVD. And I just love The Fifth Wave so much. It's like an apocalyptic series with like an alien invasion, and there's like these different waves or sort of like different disasters that are happening to sort of like destroy the human race, and it's really interesting, and I really enjoyed the movie, so I feel like I'm going to enjoy the book. It's just a big book, so it's a big commitment, and it's a 3-book series, and I need to just stop making excuses and read it soon. And this is the movie cover, by the way. It has Chloe Grace Moritz. I don't know if I said her last name right, and I became a huge fan of her because of The Fifth Wave. Next up, a book that you wouldn't watch if it got adapted. So I'm not going to cheat on this by choosing a book that I haven't read that I wouldn't watch if it was adapted. I'm going to choose a book that I have read that I wouldn't watch a movie adaptation of. And that is 10 by Gretchen McNeil. So 10 is like the slasher horror story essentially, and I am not a huge fan of horror movies. And the thing is, I'm not a huge fan of horror books either, but I actually really enjoyed this one, partly because of the writing style and the characters, and partly because like this is set somewhere like close-ish to me. It's set in the Pacific Northwest. I forget which island in particular, but like I like the setting because like it reminds me of places that I've been, because I don't know if I've been to this specific island, but I've been to different islands in the area where this book takes place. So this is one that I enjoyed the book, but like the movie would probably freak me out too much, and I'd probably be like gagging because of how much gore would be in the movie. So yeah, love the book, but would never watch it if it got made into a movie. We're almost done. 2 more questions. Number 10, a series that shouldn't have been continued. The Giver. So The Giver started off obviously with the first book, The Giver, and it was made into a 4-book series. And the thing is, The Giver ended on a cliffhanger, so it really did potentially need sequels, but the sequels felt like it was a different person writing them, and the sequels had very bland and annoying characters. I've read book 2 and 3. I am never going to read book 4. I thought book 2 was like okay, like I thought that it was okay world building, but I thought that everything about it was bland and it was written in a bland writing style. And I was like, how is this written by the same person as The Giver? Because The Giver is so incredible. I mean, it's essentially a modern classic. Is it a classic? I don't think it's a classic because I don't think it's been out for 100 years. But basically The Giver is such a phenomenal book that everyone should read. But then the sequel, just the second book, sort of was like, ugh. I gave it like 3 stars, like it was okay. There were things I liked about it, but generally it was very much a disappointment. And then the third book, oh, it was such a drag to get through the third book, and the third book was like really small, so I was like, oh, I'll just crack through this, it'll be a fun, quick read, and it was one of the worst books that I've ever read. It was so awful. So The Giver should not have been continued into a series unless the author was going to continue with the same characters and write in a similar writing style. But that didn't happen, so it shouldn't have been made into a series. And finally, number 11, a trope that puts you off from picking up a book. Generally, there aren't that many tropes that put me off from picking up a book. I'm not always a huge fan of insta-love or fake dating though, so if I know that those tropes will be in there, sometimes it's not like super high on my TBR, but I won't be like, I'll never pick up that book. I just won't advance it to like my next book to read, if that makes any sense. Like, I'll give pretty much every trope a chance, but I'm not super eager to pick up books with insta-love or fake dating. So that was all for this book tag. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to me if you haven't already. All of the questions for this tag will be down in the description below, so you can do this tag if you want to. All of my other social media will also be down in the description below, including BookTok, Instagram, Goodreads, all that jazz. I upload videos twice a week, so my next video will be uploaded this Friday. I hope you stick around to watch that video, and until next time, goodbye!